And we are live today. Orange and blue today.
We're live most days now, it seems.
People like live.
Yes, people do like live. In fact, it's been pointed out to me sometimes that the show doesn't have necessarily the same oomph, the same panache perhaps when it's not live. So anyway,
when you're live, anything can happen.
Oh gosh, where have we heard that before?
All right, let's get to it. Orange and blue today. Sigmund Bloom was talking about you today.
What did he say?
He said I might scare you if I went on one of my rants. I was like, oh,
about what?
I mean, anything.
Anything?
Yeah. How about a rant about this quarterback competition? Is it down to 2? Did we just see it go down to 2, Mace? Let's just jump right in.
I think we did.
Why don't they say that then? I totally think we see it shrunk to
for
2
the same reason that when you get into regular seasons sometimes and they don't want to name a starter at a position. And I remember Mike Shanahan would often say, oh, you'll find out on Sunday. Yeah, but we basically know at this point, right?
Right.
I mean, we don't know who the week 1 starter is, but I always say focus on what they say, or what they do, not what they say. What the Broncos did today was have Zach Wilson as the number 3 quarterback for a second straight day. So this is where the 3-day rotation came to a halt. Yesterday, it went Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson. Today, it went Jarrett Stidham, Bo Nix, Zach Wilson. Now, if Sean Payton wants to throw us all a curveball and have Zach Wilson tomorrow, then it's like, I'm not going to know what to make of this. But when you've been moving around the quarterbacks ever since the start of OTAs, and then for the first time since then, you had one quarterback who was in the same position today as he was yesterday, I think that's the tell.
Yeah, and things are out of order. Remember, training camp started, and I was like, it can't be Zach on the first day with fans, right? And it was Zach on the first day of fans. Are you surprised it didn't last this week? Give them each 2 practices and pads. I thought by Saturday we would be here, Mace. It's Tuesday and we're here.
Well, sometimes you're trying to read the tea leaves based on what's said, and Sean Payton offered a thought of saying the next week and a half at one of his press conferences. And so that would have indicated, okay, a week and a half would have probably taken you through this week, and then you make a call next Monday when you're actually getting into the first preseason game week of training camp.
Sure.
But not the case. Not the case.
Alas, here we are. Sean Payton talking on the quarterback situation. Here's the first part of what Coach had to say.
We're still, look, we've got a plan. In yesterday, Bo ran with the 1s, Zach with the 2s. Today, Stiddy was with the 1s. So no news to announce there. I know you're looking for it, but
I think he just made a mistake there when he was reciting what happened yesterday. But my handy dandy notebook here I keep in practice from practices says that on Monday the first quarterback up was Bo Nix, the second quarterback up was Jarrett Stidham, the third was Zach Wilson. So Zach Wilson was the third one up when they went to team period for 2 straight days. Now, yesterday was a shorter practice. I think today went about 40 minutes longer or so. Felt like I was keeping good notes, but I wasn't keeping the exact time that practice ended. So forget.
We're on training camp time.
Yes.
So I don't know what day it is. I rarely know what time it is. I'm just like, what do I have to do? Okay, now let's do it.
Well, we're kind of now in that Groundhog Day mode.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's already here.
We are at, well, actually, this is the longest uninterrupted stretch of practices 6 straight days, Monday through Saturday, because next week it's Monday through Friday, and then they get on a plane and they fly to Indianapolis for the preseason opener. And then they come back and they have, I think it's 4 days of work before 3 days of work, then the Packers joint practice, and then the Packer game 2 days after that. So this is the stretch where you'll see towards the end of it, maybe some fatigue kick in, but this is where the monotony gets there. I mean, we saw our first scuffle of training camp today as well, when Nate Atkins, Jarrell, and Shami went at it. I think, Sean Payton sort of implied that Darrell didn't really like the hard blocking from Nate Atkins getting downfield. Well, hey, I mean, Nate's trying to make this team. Nate's fullback, Nate's special teamer, Nate's an H-back, Nate's tight end. And what he does in all those things is he'll block you in the next week if you're not careful.
Well, Coach Red by You says things about ready to get awfully physical. Here's what Coach had to say.
Yeah, it's a scuffle. Sometimes it doesn't bother me. In that case, I think we'll look at the film. I think, one player gets blocked pretty well and frustrated. And so I don't want discipline fouls, and we've all seen it. So we talked a little bit about it afterwards, but the guys are working hard.
Okay, I'd say that listening to that, he likes the fact they're working hard, but he didn't like the fight. Like some coaches like some of the fights, like it's
sure.
Let him go. He kind of pointed the discipline. The fact that he said that he discussed it with the team at the end of practice, and that was a rather long huddle at the end of practice too today. That was about 15 minutes or so at the end where he gathered them. So that would tell me that he didn't like it boiling over like that. He wants intensity, but he didn't want, it got to where, I mean, it was the two of them, but I'd say probably in the end, there was a big scrum of about 12, 14 guys there in the end. And then everyone else running over. It was, it took a minute after that to kind of decompress and process everything.
Yeah, it's, like clearing out the dugouts. Everyone kind of ran over and then didn't do anything. I saw Greg Dulcich kind of hanging around the outside, and I was like, just don't do anything, Greg.
No.
Please don't get hurt.
Like you worry about some guys, like if they decide to jump in and be the third player in or the fifth player in or whatever, and then they break their hand throwing a punch. Well, I'll tell you this roster's wide open enough in a lot of spots to where I'm not really sure you want to do that, because if you do, you might find yourself not on the team when the season starts.
Right. You got to be careful out there. And if you're Zach Wilson, back to that conversation, like there's nothing wrong with Wilson now being deemed the third quarterback, even if they won't say it.
Yes.
And we can see it, and it's clear and obvious. Now, again, if Wilson's number one tomorrow, then who knows? And practices are longer tomorrow. But it's like, this is the natural progression of things. It's all going to go to Bo Nix anyway.
How many times have you and I said that maybe the best thing for Zach Wilson is to kind of be on this parallel track away from the other two quarterbacks? Let Stidham and Nix compete. And that's where your quarterback, barring a disaster, is coming from over the course of the season, one of these two guys, and let Zach Wilson kind of do his own thing, be on his own path, and then you revisit where he is at the end of the year and decide whether you want to give him another contract or move on. I mean, because if you really do value the potential of Zach Wilson, I think you want to play the long game here.
Sure. Don't rattle his confidence.
Right. And there's although I'll say this, I've seen some positive indications on Zach Wilson, but there's still the inconsistency. I think it's very fair to say that most of the days that we've seen, Zach Wilson has a couple of pretty good throws, but he also has, you could also say, I'd say probably for 5 of the 6 practices we've seen so far in camp, he's had the single worst throw of the day.
And maybe multiple of those bad throws. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's making guys fight for it. You and I saw one that Kroll pulled in, and he had to dove and twist and dive. And it's like, okay, he made the catch, but don't make it hard on him.
Well, it's like there was a play where Zach Wilson a few days ago had the play of the day, and it was a throw that fundamentally everything was wrong. He was off balance. He didn't have to be off balance. I mean, hey, it's great that you have that club in your bag to just wing it just in case things are really going sideways and it's the only way you can avoid a sack and you're able to complete it. But that's not something that you want ideally. You want to function in the pocket. We haven't seen that too often, except when it's like first read and out. We haven't seen him very often in the pocket, go through all his progressions, and then be accurate down the field. Whereas we've seen that happen with Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix so far, which is part of why there's a gap. And you mentioned that Kroll catch. You could argue the catch end of it was the best play of the day today.
Yeah,
perhaps.
You said that when it happened. You said the catch is better than the throw.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you could argue that half of it, the single best play we saw the entire morning, potentially. I mean, it was spectacular, but it's wild also because we talked yesterday about how in 7-on-7 on Monday Zach Wilson wasn't done any favors. Well, he has a couple that he drops into the bread baskets of guys in 7-on-7 with the threes and they get dropped. And then today it's just the throw is off. It's a mess. And Kroll somehow comes down with it. Yeah. Now, I'd say also for Lucas Kroll, that's good because that's the kind, that's the sort of catch that he keeps making. He's gonna make an impression. Because there's another thing as well going on with Lucas Kroll relative to Greg Dulcich. Gosh, I sound like Sean Payton when I say relative to. Yeah, it just seeps in. You can't help it like that. Like you hear it so often. What's your vision? My vision for the day is getting this QB report done right after, going on radio about 5:15, getting the Brew report done, crossing off some items on the to-do list tonight, and then winding down and maybe watching a little TV at the end of the evening before I go to bed. That's what my vision involves.
Okay.
But for Lucas Kroll, it was yesterday. We've seen Nick Bonito kind of be off and on in terms of how he's been on the field. There was a moment yesterday that Kroll, I think, is going against Bonito. Bonito's got a nice move off the edge, and Kroll does exactly what a tight end should do. Pushes him outside and wide, keeps the pocket clean. Kroll's, and you're seeing positive work in the blocking end of it from Kroll on a pretty regular basis. And that's something that Greg Dulcich is going to struggle, because, and this is just physical body type thing. That's all. Kroll is a bigger body and he's using that. Dulcich really should be operating in space. It's not always the best thing for him when you see him in line. And that could really impact just how they're used and how much they're used as we get into the season.
Well, it's a tell when he's on the field. Like, I ain't running to his side. And there was a play today, but now we transition to the ground game, which was off the chain, as the big fella would say. Yeah, there was a play where Kroll did a crackback to Audric Estime, was on the right side, and Kroll springs him, and it's like a 25-yard run. And a legitimate, like, not one of those, that guy probably could have had. No, Estime, huge hole, Estime breaks it 25 yards, and it's because Kroll's crack back.
Was that like Kroll, and then you had Palczewski there out in front, too? Was that the play?
That was the play, on the right side.
Yeah, the right side. Like, that was, you couldn't do it any better than those two did. Yeah.
Drawn up perfectly.
Yeah, that's, we had a 9-on-7 period, so that's why we're kind of getting into the run here a little bit.
Running backs are really good.
Yeah, this was, it was Bo Nix took the hand off, and it was, there I got it right here. Palczewski 85 on the edge, long run, arguably the play of the day. It was,
it was spectacular.
It was like that. Today was a day that you were yesterday really encouraged by the defense as well, Pat, especially pass defense. If they weren't getting home, they were getting their hands up, knocking down some passes today. We have the Sean Payton comment on the batted passes, right?
We do.
Let's hear that, because here's the thing. Are the batted passes a negative because they're happening to the quarterbacks? Or are they a positive because you're seeing the defense make plays when they can't necessarily get home? Be a big Bill Kolar type special. Here's what Sean Payton had to say.
Sometimes it's quarterback driven, and I don't want to say it's height driven because there's been some bigger quarterbacks that were more prone, maybe a longer release. Sometimes, and I heard Zach say it today, if you're blocking someone and winning on a pass protection, then all of a sudden you feel his eyes now, periph through to the QB to anticipate. And so there's some techniques you can work on to try to keep him from getting in the air. But I was more encouraged, not discouraged, encouraged in that, that there's some savviness that's involved there to do it defensively, and that was encouraging.
Okay.
I like it.
And oh, by the way, that happening without John Franklin Myers, who had a personal day that he had to take. So we saw a lot more of Angelo Blackson up front. It's sort of, you're kind of getting a glimpse of the rotation. It's why we talked about this on the OBT2 last night. How you see DJ Jones, you see JFM, you see Zach Allen. You see Angelo Blackson rotating in, you see Matt Henningsen rotating in. Like you've got and then of course Malcolm Roach. You've got. It seems like you're seeing some stratification going on the defensive line as far as how that group is going to be comprised when the season starts.
Yeah. See how it works. See how these quarterbacks continue, and then see what this defense can continue to do. It was nice to see the running game fight back, more physical on that side. I have some thoughts on Estime, who basically lowered the crown of his helmet into Omar Brown's chest. At least that's what it seemed like. I watched the replay. It's not exactly like that, but he does run with the thunder because I think Brown's trying to catch him because you guys will get thudded. They're thudding up, but no live tackling. So Brown stands in his way and tries to catch him, just plays over. It's not over with Estime.
No, it's
he
not.
Knocked him backwards. It was a great play. Drew a lot of raves from the crowd.
So this is as I said when I saw the play, that sort of play might be the sign that Samaje Perine's in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, drop pass from Samaje today.
Yes.
Maybe wasn't his best day out there. Usually he's real steady. We don't even have to talk about Samaje Perine because he's just kind of Perine. Today, and Estime's catching better than you think. Not known as a pass catcher, known for his power, but we've watched Estime now for a long time. And going back to the spring, he's catching better. He's not, it's not Blake Watson catching passes, but he's catching better than you think.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We still haven't seen Blake Watson yet. He's still on the NFI list. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up progressing here in the next few weeks. But Estime is taking his chance and running with it. And now, you can get a sense of how this is starting to look, because as the run game has felt its oats in the last few days, what are we seeing? Sometimes I like to look back and say, okay, what's making it into the notebook every day? Every day I'm talking about, it seems like I'm noting an explosive run or a burst through the hole from Estime, Javonte, and Jaleel McLaughlin.
Happened today again.
Yes, it seems like we're getting really kind of our arms around how a three-headed monster in the backfield might work, with Javonte getting, the bulk of it, and then Estime kind of relieving him on first and second down. And then Jaleel, and this is where I think as we see more third down work with the pads on, that's they've basically these first 2 days of pads, it was they had the install days. They did 2 install days back in June. They mimicked them last week to start the acclimation period, and they had the 2 more install days here going the last couple of days. Now we'll probably start seeing more situational stuff like third down, and that's where it's time to test Jaleel in pass pro with the pads on third down. This is where we find out, what's going to happen.
his pass pro has been lacking. The Incoom play today, he let Incoom run right by him. He didn't put a finger on him. And I was
this was always going to be the test. This was all the pads were always going to be the test because he could work. You can work on technique until, and from sun up to sundown and beyond every day. But if it doesn't translate when the pads go on, it doesn't mean McLaughlin's not going to be on this team. It just puts a ceiling on his role. All of a sudden, that role becomes special teams, and it becomes 8 to 10 plays on offense.
Specialist.
Yes.
That's why if Blake Watson was healthy, he could be pushing because you would anticipate Watson would be better. Just he went out, and you should have seen Incoom. Incoom showed he was coming.
Yeah.
And that's Jalil's responsibility. Ran right to the quarterback. So Jalil's got to be better, and he's got to keep his feet, Mace. Now 2 days with pads. I've seen him not keep his feet on guys are thudding. No one's tackling.
Yeah.
But guys are thudding, and he's slipping, and he's getting knocked down. It's like, keep your feet. You have to keep your balance. That's something Philip Lindsay would do in the day. And I believe Blake Watson would do as well, although I think it was mandatory. I saw Watson slip a few times.
Yeah, he did. He did slip. And look, Philip Lindsay proved he could be an every down back for a while in his career, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Jalil McLaughlin wants to go. We just haven't seen those attributes yet. Again, I'm not going to sit here and write him off, but I will say that if the future days look like the ones that we've seen so far in terms of the pass pro aspect, and again, we really start ramping up into longer practices, more situational work starting tomorrow. If he doesn't progress in that area, like I said, doesn't mean he's not making the team, because there's a specific role that they're happy to have him fill. It just means that he'll continue to be that specialist type of back. Again, that's fine. There's a role for that in the Sean Payton offense.
Oh, yeah.
But it puts a ceiling on his production.
Well, if we remember Sean Payton, I always forget the fourth back. I remember Chris Ivory, who technically was the fourth back, but there was a day when it was Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, Chris Ivory. Payton was using 4 backs. They might only keep 3, but he might use all 3. And it's Jalil as the specialist, and it's Estime on first and second, and it's Javonte on first and second. And keep them fresh and run the hell out of the ball, Mace. I think that's something we've seen and heard about from Bolles, from Sean Payton himself.
Let's go back to 2009 with the Saints. This was the year they won the Super Bowl. Okay. Tell me who led those Saints in rushing attempts in 2009.
Was Mark Ingram there yet?
No.
Okay. So was that still Pierre Thomas? Was that in his day?
No, he was second on the team with 147 carries.
Okay. So let me have it. Who was it? 2009.
Mike Bell. Remember him?
Good. Oh, yeah. I got a great picture of
former
Mike Bell.
Bronco.
Yeah.
Mike Bell had 172 rushing attempts when the Saints went to the Super Bowl.
And was there anything special about Mike Bell? No.
The Saints had 4 running backs that year who started at least one game. They had Mike Bell, Pierre Thomas, Reggie Bush, and Lionel Hamilton. Each of them, yes. Wow. Lionel Hamilton, $125 on the season. Reggie Bush, 390 rushing yards, although considerably more effective in the passing game. Pierre Thomas was effectively the number 1 back because he was the only one who had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, 793 on the ground, 302 through the air. And then Mike Bell, not really involved as a pass catcher, but 654 yards on the ground. Yeah. Running back by committee.
That's a Sean Payton specialty.
Yep. Fantasy nightmare, but who cares about that? I'm sorry. I know you do sometimes. I do. You do. Chris Ivory came in the following year, by the way.
It's only my career, Mace.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not a fantasy guy. I actually had the chance many years ago to take a job that was actually fantasy football centric.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of looked deep within myself and I was like, I think I just like the real stuff.
Well, what I told Dave Logan years ago, because when I first got on air, Dave was like really uncomfortable with fantasy because you think it's like nerd stuff, and it certainly can be. But what I told Dave is what I still ring true to this day, is I cover the entire league because it's just talking football. Some people take it, and I get it, and that's fine. But for me, it's just talking ball. Mace, you love talking ball.
I love talking ball, but it's different attributes that you're looking for sometimes, right?
When I had to explain to Adam Schefter that Leroy Horde was worth more than Robert Smith because of touchdowns.
Yes.
When Robert Smith was like leading the league in rushing, and now Adam's like a fantasy whiz. But either way, this ain't fantasy football, to quote Nick Saban when he's with the Dolphins. This is the really real world, and in it, I think the Broncos are going to run it, and run it some more.
Yeah. This is going to be a run-centric team in the end. I mean, we're seeing him work out of the shotgun. We're seeing him, work on the passing concepts, and you have to do that. But
can we tell him about the one play? We can. I mean, the fans are there, right? We can tell them.
Yeah.
Bo
ran.
Mean,
you can't.
Bo ran on a design run, and it was awesome. Okay, like it's going to be
a part of this thing here.
Yes.
With Bo Nix.
Yes.
And he's going to run the ball.
It looked good. The Jaleel run that they blocked perfectly, almost like the Estime run, that looked good. Javonte had a big run. Like when they match it up and they block it the right way, they got some dudes up front, man.
Yeah, and okay, let's talk about up front. Let's talk about the change that went into the lineup today. We haven't gotten to that.
I know.
Alex Forsyth getting the work at first team center. Alex Forsyth is a stronger run blocker than Luke Wattenberg at this point. And I think this is where between you put Forsyth in and and JFM was not out there today. I think those two things are what you allowed the entire offensive line to get its footing. Like, and I mean all the way, tackle to tackle. Mike McGlinchey today was very good. Very good. Especially in the run game, which he should be. But now if you've got this offense that's run-centric, I think you'll see him look better. But did you think it was a rough day for Ben Powers as well? Not as much as Monday.
Yeah. Yesterday was real bad.
Yeah. His timing is off for some reason up front. Not sure why.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because it's off even with Stidham in there. If you think Bo and maybe Bo has a different cadence or whatever, but even with Stidham in there, is he trying to get the jump to beat the guys on the inside? Like, is it different competition? I'm not sure because I expect more from Ben Powers. It's not just the money. Ben Powers was a good signing. He hasn't played real good football this summer.
No. And you had the moments last year where he struggled. By and large, he was a league average starting guard over the course of the year. And it's one of the reasons why we talked about, 8th in pass block win rate, 1st in run block win rate. You had two guys who got paid who effectively if you were ranking the players at their respective positions up front, you would say Mike McGlinchey was probably about 14th or so out of 32. Sure. And Ben Powers was about say 16th or 17th at his guard spot. Okay. So in other words, you had 5 positions where the worst you were was average. And when that happens, if average is your floor, as a collective, it's going to be a good group. Make no mistake, the Broncos offensive line is a good group.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that you're not going to have spots where maybe you want a little more. There was one moment yesterday. It was actually in Pass Pro. It was one of the plays that Zach Allen made. And right after that period, I saw McGlinchey just kind of frustrated. Like he just kind of, you know how guys ticked off, you can see like when they just rip their chin strap off, right? Like, like he had that moment where he was really upset. I like seeing that fire in practice here. We're not even to August yet. And you already see that kind of intensity and accountability, mad at yourself. So,
yeah.
Yeah, Broncos Syndicate. Yep, it was good seeing you today, by the way.
Yeah, Gage.
Hey,
What's up, Gage?
Yeah, good seeing you up on the hillside. But yes, yeah, I thought this was one of the best days I've seen from McGlinchey. But you know what? He talked about it yesterday. And Zach Streif mentioned it as well last month. More is expected in the second year for a veteran in the scheme.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And they're gonna bring it. It has been brought in. Final
Broughton?
piece. It's from a movie.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that one. I hear Broughton. I think of Neil Broughton, a longtime Minnesota North Star, Dallas Stars player, 1980 U.S. Olympic men's hockey team member.
Yeah.
I
remember that game because I'm old enough to have watched that game.
Yes.
Which is odd because I'm not a hockey guy, but that was one of those sports moments. Like, where were you? Yeah, I was in a ranch in Grover, Colorado, watching us beat the Russians.
And it aired on tape delay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Think about that. I was like today when I was working, I had the Olympics on, and now what they do with the Olympics, like they have a primetime show that they run in the evening and all that, but they just now they finally figured this out. They just throw it on live on NBC whenever. So like you don't have to, they don't embargo it. They run the whole they run the whole thing live in the afternoon. Although what I had on for a while, how they have and of course NFL Red Zone, right?
Sure.
Well, they recruited the two people who've done Red Zone, Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano, because of course there are two versions of Red Zone, one for DirecTV, one for others. And they do it's now Gold Zone, as in gold medals and all that. And so like they're whipping around from swimming to team handball to soccer to 3x3 basketball to 5-on-5 basketball and volleyball and all that. And like, okay, this is awesome. this is really awesome.
That's the way people want to watch now. There's something to watch for, Mace. And perhaps I should save this for another show, but I want to talk about it with you before we're out of here today. The question of what Sean Payton takes away from each drill. And it was Parker that had it today. Because the one-on-ones to me are about technique. When you and I talked about one-on-one drills today, and I only saw some of it because 9-on-7 was going on at the same damn time. So I'd watch 9-on-7, you were taking notes, and then I'm watching one-on-ones, and I'm looking at technique.
I didn't see one-on-ones at all because I was watching 9-on-7. So.
Yeah, so they're doing it at the same time, different fields, whatever. But on technique purposes, it was nice to hear what coach takes away because, like, learning what he thinks important. I don't like running in 7-on-7. He didn't seem to be bothered, although he might have been mistook for the actual run.
I think he was talking about the long run by Bo in team. I don't think he was talking about 7-on-7.
Yeah, so perhaps at a different time, you and I could ask him, like, what are you taking away from the reserves? But in one-on-ones, there's a route that's bothering Surtain because Josh Reynolds is getting open on him. And Courtland, I'll tell you off air what it is. But like Courtland Sutton was putting in some work, and Sutton seemed happy today. It was like happy Sutton all of a sudden.
He was okay. He obviously had the contract done. He's been happy all camp. He has been smiling every day coming onto the field. He is the happiest day after day. Court's been the happiest player coming onto the field. And okay, honestly, like this kicked in. Remember he met the media that first day of mandatory minicamp. And he was very matter of fact about things, right? Like about his contract. He talked about, he kind of, went into the holdout. It's not a holdout because it was voluntary, but not being a part of OTAs and staying away. One night later, he did another session because it was at his event at Coors Field. And that's the court that we've seen so far in camp.
That was a great court.
I think something in that conversation he had with Sean Payton changed things for him. Because in between, like they sat down and they hashed some things out. Something it'd be interesting to kind of see at some point if we can kind of dig into this. I do think something may have been said that turned on a light bulb for him in a good way.
Look at how Sean has treated like a Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Look at his relationship with Javonte. Listen, fans, there are some fans that don't like Sean Payton for whatever reasons, probably Bountygate. But it's like players respond to him.
Yeah.
He can love you up.
The guys that play for him, there are more that like him that don't.
Even the guys that don't like him, I won't name any Saints names, but like even the guys that don't like him, they play for him. And they'll come back.
There's a respect. Like the guy, like
yes.
He's like, some guys love him. Some it's like he's that tough professor that you realize when you get away. Oh yeah, he was like, this guy was making me better.
Yeah.
Look, Jim Leonard got cut by the guy 11 years ago, and now he came back to coach for him. I mean, obviously he didn't have any hard feelings because when he finally came back to the NFL, guess who he decided to go work for? And he could have worked. Yep. He could have worked for the Packers. He could have gone a lot of places. No, he wanted to work for Sean Payton. Of course, some of that may have to do with the potential of, if things go sideways, being the next guy up. Look, I think it's fair to say that there aren't a lot of hot seats at Broncos headquarters at Broncos Park, powered by Commonsfare BPPCS. There aren't a lot of hot seats, but Vance Joseph occupies one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. They added the talent. Maybe they'll be better. Detroit Mission Control, he's our dude. He says maybe Court had a couple lattes.
Hey, probably did.
Hey.
Sounds like it
Breaking
was
bread.
it might have been like one of those morning meetings. Like,
yeah,
let's have a couple of coffees and let's talk. And I know we kind of joke about the lattes. Yes, it really is. At that time of day, like, Sean's caffeinating up. It's like I don't think it's a euphemism. I think it's lattes.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
sure.
this is getting the blood pumping in the morning.
Look at how Javonte responded, and that conversation could have gone, hey, lose weight. That conversation could have gone sideways real quick.
Well, the way it was presented, of like North Carolina having two backs, like, hey, is this one you?
That's the one.
Sean Payton, Sean Payton knowing damn well, yeah, that's Javonte Williams. That's not Michael Carter.
Oh yeah,
knows damn well who that is. Hey, is that you? That you? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's me. Okay. What did you weigh? I want that guy. I want that guy.
That's such
we've seen that guy.
Unique way to put it. You know what I mean? Like, what'd you weigh back then? That's the guy I want.
It's a way of kind of putting it, like, being a little soft with it. Like, okay, I've heard this, and I'm gonna get this description wrong.
Okay.
But you're showing like the college highlights, so it's like a good thing. It's a good memory, right?
Sure.
Like, I loved you coming out of college. Loved it.
Great.
Look at you. Like, and sometimes you have to have some sweet slices of bread around the bitter crap in between, right?
Sure.
Or, as I think it was Mary Poppins, right? A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Isn't that the old saying?
We're just gonna go through every cliche here.
We'll go through them all. Well, collect them all.
Yes, collect all the cups. Mary Poppins. Yes, Mary Poppins.
Yeah, let's talk about more outdated things like me and Mike Evans today. Here's what I'm collecting.
I'm glad we worked that in.
I got to work it into the show. Into the big show.
Considering it was in response to your question or your assertion.
He needed more lattes that day. He was very grumpy.
Grumpy. He has been in a good mood ever since that day.
Yeah, it was the one day not to poke the bear, and I went.
The first day.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why. Was it at that moment he was wishing he was back on the course in Coeur d'Alene?
Well, it's almost like he was in the middle of working out, and we interrupted him, because he was all like sweaty and stuff. So I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, like this is heck with this. This is time I want to be working, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
we're about ready to wrap today.
Because this show went in a completely different direction than I thought it was going to go originally. So
it does that sometimes when we're live.
It's unpredictable because it's live on tape.
Longer practices starting tomorrow. We're there for you, and we appreciate all the love. So many fans today coming up, loving OBT. Just man, that hits right here. We don't always get love, Mace. So when you do, it really means something.
You're definitely more sociable out in public than I am. The problem is I'm so obsessed with trying to take notes,
your notebook is very thorough.
Yeah, it's like where's your notebook? And you're like, oh, it's up here, and I'm like, how do you do that? See, if
numbers of like stats of play by play.
If I don't do that, I'm gonna get details wrong. Yeah,
it's all in the details.
People do love this show.
That's for sure they do. So we appreciate them, and we love them right back. But Mace, to show us the love, they got to help us out on YouTube. How do they do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
and hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
a vid.
That's a way of helping us feel the love. So
exactly.
Thank you.
Do it up. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.